In the last lecture of friction, we have seen different cases where the block was placed on the horizontal plane, then the block was placed on the inclined plane, and we were applying the force to move the block to the left or to the right, or even to move the block up the plane or down the plane. Now friction has got many applications, and one of those applications is the case where we want to lift some object with the use of what is known as a wedge. Now wedge is nothing but an inclined plane which will be put under the block, and then with some support we will be trying to lift that block for one reason or another. Now in this case the block is shifted in the vertical direction, but the force which is applied is horizontal. Now the case is very obvious, because there are some objects which cannot be just lifted by applying a force in the upward direction so that the block could be straight away moved up. Instead of that, what we will be planning to do is to rest the block, say, against the wall, and then we will try to put the wedge so that we will keep on shifting it inside and the block will keep on moving in the upward direction. Let us draw a figure for the same. We will be having the block. So this block is to be shifted up, and when we want to move this particular block, we are actually placing the wedge. Now this triangular block is called as a wedge. So this wedge is placed on some surface. So the wedge is placed on some surface. Of course you know that this system right now is unstable, but there is a vertical plane which is supporting the block. And now you can imagine that this system is going to be in equilibrium. The block is not going to shift down because of the wedge which is present over here. Now the case is, due to the weight of the block, it is likely that the wedge could be shifted to the right. But with the good selection of the surfaces, we can introduce the friction which will be there, and as the block, due to its weight, will try to move down, the wedge is likely to move towards right. This is called as the wedge. Wedge is likely to move to the right, but the frictional force will oppose that motion. Now even when the block tries to move down, the frictional force will be acting in the upward direction on this vertical surface. Now our aim is to move this block up, so we will be applying some force P. So some force P is applied towards left. So as we try to push this wedge inside, the block will slowly move upward. Now this is the consideration. So far as wedge is concerned, it is normally considered as weightless. So in many applications you will find that the weight of the wedge is not given to us. But we also know that the frictional force which is going to come into picture, that frictional force is going to be proportionate to the normal reaction, and the normal reaction in this case will be dependent on the weight. But it is not the weight of the wedge which will be important, but the weight of the block is quite considerable, and weight of the wedge could be considered as the negligible one. Now let us study the surfaces which come into picture, the surfaces which are in contact. The base of the wedge is in contact with this particular surface, say surface 1. So this is surface 1, this is surface 2, and so there are two surfaces which are coming in contact, one with the wedge and the other with the block. But also the block and wedge, they have got a common surface. Now the coefficient of friction in all the three contact surfaces could be the same or they could be different. Let us consider the case that here we have got the coefficient of friction as mu1. At this point there is coefficient of friction as mu2, and at the vertical surface it is say mu3 or surface 2. So let us call this as mu2 and this as mu3. Now consider the case when we try to shift the wedge to the left, then the frictional force will be acting towards right, and for the surface 2, as the block is trying to move up, the frictional force will be acting down. Now in this particular case, the problem statement will give the description of this system and will provide us the data